Hey besties, okay, so this is a walkthrough for this project. This is a monitoring system data pipeline. It's a project related to data engineering. So data engineers build pipelines that help for the ETL process, extraction, transformation, loading, or in the other case, extraction, loading, transformation, right? So this is a beginner's project for people who are starting out in data engineering to get their hands quite strong using Python. So far the project covers everything you can get from Python, from variable naming to your for loops, right? Conditional statements, if, elif, it covers all of this. So now the scenario is that you are building a monitoring system for a data pipeline in a data lakehouse architecture. As a data engineer, your job is to analyze the metadata logs from the multiple data sources and determine the health status of each pipeline that is being run. So the pipeline is logged in a JSON-like format, and you are provided with the below, right? So it says that they are given a list of such logs for different pipelines. Your task to analyze each log and apply the following complex conditional rules to determine the pipeline health status. So in a nutshell, they're trying to, like, for each pipeline that is being run, metadata that is generated from the pipeline that is run, we want to classify each of them as healthy, warning, or critical. It's going to help us to know which of the logs are causing problems, whether they failed, whether they're okay, and for each time it is being generated, this things automatically run. So to do that, we need to create a function. So whenever this function is called upon, it will run it for us, right? So now these are the rules and conditions for a particular one to be healthy. This is for warning, and this is for critical. We're taking them one after the other. So we have three tasks here and a bonus challenge. The first task is that you write a function to evaluate, a function called evaluate pipeline health, and that takes a single dictionary. So this one is the first one is a single log dictionary and returns the same dictionary, but this time around with an updated health status assigned to each of them. That's either critical health or warning, right? So the second one is that instead of one dictionary, we're now looking at a list of these dictionaries, because this is actually what you would see in the field. You're not working with one, you're working with dictionaries that are inside a list. So the next one is to print a summary. At least every time a finish is running, you should print a summary for us, right? And then you should count the health status. We want to know how many of these things were healthy, how many give us warning signs, and how many are in critical condition. And then there's a bonus for high priority alerts, something we should look at immediately. So these are the testing logs. This is for the single dictionary, and this is like for the list of dictionaries. So first of all, we'll go ahead and get into it. So I'll quite be a bit fast, just so that we don't take long for the video, right? So if you had your questions, you can always drop them in the comment section. So for this question that says for the single log, we are going to be using if else statement. So I would just copy these warnings because I would want to be looking at them, right? We copy them and over here, I'll paste it and I'll give it a markdown. So make it to be a markdown format, and then we'll go ahead. So first of all, we are creating a function that is called evaluate pipeline health, and this is looking at the log. First of all, we're looking at the log, right? So this is a function, and what we want to be done inside this function. Now we need to now create the different conditions that needs to be run. So we start with the first one. So the first one is for the if. We write it with a comment one for the healthy condition, right? So for this healthy condition, we want to say that if the log status, so you can work with me. Healthy says if the log status is 200. So first of all, you have the log status code if it equals 200, and the next one is that the empty is also empty, the errors list, right? So these are meta logs. Meta log is like it's describing what is the status, are there errors, are there warnings, what is inside the warning, what is the duration of the second. So these are already like variables that describe a data. That's the metadata, right? So these are the conditions. First of all, we check what is the status code. Is it 200 or is not 200? The next one is that is the empty list, is the errors list empty or does it contain value? If it contains value, that means it's failing our condition. So we want to say that. And the next one, sorry, so we have to say and the errors log errors. So I'll use my tab just so that we can move forward, and then I will explain what all of these things means. I think it's because I've written this before, so it's this is Gemini AI suggestion. So we'll just take a look at this and know if it actually tells us what we're doing. So this is if log status equals to 100. That's status for this, and the log errors is also empty, right? This is for all this. Another one is that the warning is empty. So first of all, the log warning is empty, or the log warning is this. So I don't like using this format. I want to see that this particular text is in the log, I'm sorry, is in the log warning or warnings, right? So this is how I prefer to do this. And the next one is, okay, so, and duration seconds is less than 600. So this is duration seconds less than 600, and the maximum latency seconds is less than 10. Maximum latency seconds less than 10. Okay, so I think we are good. So before we finally do this, I would like to wrap this into a parenthesis, right? Just so that our code is more readable. Just so it is more readable. And then we would say, what do we want to do? So if all of these conditions are met, we want to say that it should give us another key, and the status of that key should be healthy. So we have to write log dot update, right? And we're saying this is it. Log update the health status to be key, right? To be the key status, and that is for this first one. So the second one is for the warning. Warning, basically the same thing, but we are using the elif statement right now. So we have elif, right? And we open this. So for the elif, we have that this is where it starts. I would have to edit this. Okay, this is for warning, and this is for critical. Nice. Okay, I think it's more readable now. So this is for warning. Warning status is 200, and duration seconds is between 600 and 1200. So let's get to it. So elif, the log status code is 200, and the log duration seconds is greater than 600, and it is less than 1200, right? So after that should be an or what are we now checking? Max log, remember, log max latency seconds is greater than 10, and log max, so this is the range is between 10 and 30. That means it is greater than 10 but less than 30, right? Yeah. So the next condition will be that one is that this contains non-late data, so that this particular text is inside the warning list. So we'll check, okay, or this non-late data in log warnings, right? And another condition, or there are fewer than 100 records ingested. So, or log record counts less than 100, and the last one, there are no errors. So if we're able to meet all of this, what should happen is it should update the status to warning, right? And for the last part, which should be the critical condition. So what happens? What are the conditions that will be met for it to be critical? So we're still using the elif, right? So if this happens, let's say elif this, then status code is not 200, right? It's not 200 in this case. So I think when I get status code is not 200, log errors is not empty. Log errors, that means there are one or more errors, so it's not empty. The next one, log duration is greater than 1200, or max latency greater than 30, and the next one, record counts will be equal to 0. So do we meet all of this? So I'm missing the record count. We have or record count is equal to 0. So if that happens, the status should be critical, right? So it returns. So now you can see that we've not been returning the log all of this while, because we want to return after it has done all the checks for this particular dictionary. So then we return once, and then we can run. I think we are good to go. So I can run this, and yeah, we are good to go. So we have to test it with this example test log. Copy it, and over here I'll paste it and run. So what I will just do is to call a function. So we'll just call this function. So over here, I can paste it, and instead of log, that particular one is called pipeline log, right? Then I'll run it. So when it runs, it's saying, okay, source Kafka. It's actually not updating this health status. So why it's not updating? You are meant to see the health status. Okay. Okay. So I will run this again. Run this again. Run this again. Still not updating. So first of all, let's take a look. Over here, we have log.update this, which is correct. Logged for warning, and the update for health status for critical. So I think what we should do is to add the else statement here, right? So we can add the else. If this is this, then log dot update it to unknown, right? Okay, health status to unknown, right? And then to done log, so run it, run this again, run this again. So yeah, so the health status is unknown, meaning it didn't meet any of those conditions, and that is why it did not run. So what if we alter something just so that it could give us one of the conditions? So I'll just over here, I'll alter the status code to 300. Then I'll run it again, and then it tells me that this is a critical health status, because the critical, remember we said the status code is not 200. So once the status code is not 200, it becomes critical, and that is the result we are having here. So that is for the one dictionary. One, we are dealing with just one dictionary, right? The metadata of one dictionary. So now what if there are so many dictionaries that are inside a list? So it's a list of dictionaries. So you would have to consider each of these dictionaries inside the list. And because we are considering each of the dictionary inside the list, we're going to be using a for loop so that it will iterate into each of them, check them one by one, then append it into our final log checklist. So to do that, we can now head over to the second question over here. I'm supposed to write that first one under this particular side, but we'll just move on. So for the list of dictionaries, the first thing I'm going to do is to create an empty list. Empty check log list. Now, the essence of creating this is that after it finishes checking for each of the dictionaries inside the list, it will append it into this empty list with their updated status, right? And then the check log list is what we'll be working with finally. So this is the first thing. That's create an empty list, right? So the next one, we now create our function. So we have to define the function. I think we have a particular name that we're giving this particular function, right? So let's check for it over here. The question. So okay, it says evaluate all pipelines. This is the name we're working with. Okay, so this will be it. Evaluate all. So this is what we're working with. Now, this is the function, and remember, we are looking at a list that contains so many dictionaries. So we need to pick each of the dictionaries one by one. So we have for each log in logs, something should happen. Then it's still the same thing, right? We're basically writing the same lines of code that we wrote for the first one. The only difference is that this for loop checks each of the logs, then applies those conditions we've written over here. So what I'll just do is to copy these conditions and then update them, update the name accordingly. So I copy it and we paste it here. So for each log, do this, check for these conditions for each of them. So what we'll do is that I'll delete this part. Right. After deleting this part, I'll come here. If this is true, indentation, we have to be very careful. So we indent this. right? And the next thing, we have to change the names, because right now, if we use log, what we said, we gave this name for each log, so we have to update everything accordingly. Or to be on the safer side, just so you don't make mistake and leave one out, you can just name this for log and logs. But you already know that this particular one is referring to each dictionary inside the list of dictionaries. So this is what we have to change. And I think this is part really nice. So we just have to be careful about the indent. Okay, right? And that, I think this is all. So the last thing to do is that what we are returning is not the log. We are returning the check log list. And before we do that, we should write a code that would append each of these things inside the check log list. And we need to write it for under each of the conditions, right? So over here, after it updates, it should check list and append this particular log, right? So we have the check log list, which is this. Then we're using append. So the append is to list, append is to list, as update is to dictionaries, right? So just like when you want to add more things to your dictionaries, we are using the update here. Remember, when we needed to add another key, health status to our dictionary that's already created, we're using log.update. So what it does is that it creates another key. So health status code is a key, errors is a key, warning is a key, duration seconds is a key, maximum latency seconds is a key, and so many other keys that might be in your data, right? Then what we're saying is that after you check this condition, it should create another key, the health status, and depending on the conditions that meets whether healthy, critical, or warning, it will append a value to it. So you're updating the dictionary. But now in this sense, we are also trying to update our log list. So instead of using updates, because it's a list, you use append. So you are appending, you are attaching more things into your list as you go on. So you have to add this line of code to every of them, right? So over here, I would paste this. Make sure that my indentation is quite good. And over here, I will still paste this. Make sure that the indent is good. I think it's remaining one, right? Also here, make sure that my indent is good. Okay, so I think we have everything that we need all sorted out. So I'll go ahead and run this and see what we have. So it's successfully run. So next thing we'll do is to test. So we need to test it and see if we're on the right track. Sorry, copy this. Oh no. So we copy this, right? This is a list that contains so many dictionaries about the data of your pipeline. So I would add another line of code. And I'll paste this here. So there's also the last thing. Remember, what we are returning is not the log, because when we say log, you are referring to each of the dictionaries inside the list of dictionaries. Well, that's not what you're trying to return. You're trying to return this. We are returning the. Oh no, I pasted this in the wrong place. Sorry. This is what we should work with. That one is for the first question. So we are returning the check log list, right? That's what we're actually returning. And then we run this, and then we call on this particular function. Just copy it. Okay, paste it over here. So now let's check. So this is one, and the health status is unknown. The next one, the health status is critical, right? The next one, the health status is healthy. So these are what we have, right? So now, if you check this particular one, you will see that the original metadata does not have the health status key. So it is after we run our code that this health status key was created, and then it was updated into each of these dictionaries. I hope that is clear for this particular question, right? So the next question is that we need to print a summary. So instead of over here, I needed to be counting each of these logs one by one so that I would know how many they are. I could just print a summary that, okay, after it finishes running, to tell me, okay, there are five logs, right? A total of 5 pipelines were evaluated, and out of them 3 were healthy, 2 were critical, and 1 was unknown, or something like that. So that's what this particular part is trying to tell us to do. So we just add more lines of code, right? So for the A part, the total pipelines evaluated, simply print, just very simple. So we print using the, okay, so total pipelines evaluated. So we use the length function, right? And we are counting the number of log. Okay, do this. And so it tells us that total pipelines evaluated are 4. So very simple. So now the last thing, we need to count out of these 4, how many are healthy, how many are critical, how many are unknown, how many are whatever. So that's the part of this. Okay. For us to successfully do this, we need to import. Okay. So we are importing counter from collections. Import counter. Right? Okay. And after that, we then create the counter itself. So we have the counter log status for log in the check log list. So it counts the health status for each of the logs in the check log list, right? And after that, use a for loop to have for status and for the account in what we put in above, right? We should print status and we should print the key. So for status and count in the count in this line, we should print the status and the count, how many times it appears. So go ahead and run this. So it tells us that unknown is 1, critical is 1, running is 1, healthy is 1. So you can see that all of the health status are represented. So now for the bonus challenge. Okay, so this bonus challenge says that we should add a rule. If the ingestion time is between midnight, that's 00 and 4 a.m. Universal time, and the pipeline is critical, mark it as high priority alert. So it's just quite, it's a simple one, right? So what we need to do, we still work with everything that we have from the question 2, where we wrote the checks for the list of dictionaries. So I still work with it, so I'll just copy what I have here, and under the bonus question, I would paste it. Okay, so I'll paste it. And before I do anything, right, first of all, if we look at the testing samples that we have, we will see that there's actually the ingestion time. So this time now it's in the string format. So first of all, we have to convert it to the date format, right? So that's what we'll do first. And to convert it to the date format, you have to do it before any condition, before you start giving any condition, just so your code will run well. So ingestion time would be the log so we have ingestion time, the string type, string is equal to log. So this will be having the ingestion time. The string format is exactly the ingestion time. That's the one that's entered in the data. So this ingestion time, we have to now change it into a date format. And to do that, we just have to put this. So to make it to be able to extract the time from it. So with this, I can run this and see if we have any errors. No errors so far, right? So after extracting the time and changing it, remember, I think this is telling us as an indicator that this didn't actually run. So we have to, from date time, import date time, comma time, right? So this is now defined. Can we run it? Good, right? So now let's continue. So after settling and conversion, so what we just did here is conversion. I'll just make a comment. conversion of time from string to date time. So that's what we did there. So remember, this bonus says that it has to be critical. If it is critical, if the pipeline is already in a critical health status, and then the ingestion time was between midnight and 4 a.m., we should make it a high priority alert. So we just add this condition under the critical because that's where it should be. So it does not check for others. What is interested in is a critical part. So we still have if time right. If this time, which is from midnight, is less than or equal to ingestion time, right? And this is also less than time, which is 4 a.m. So this is the hour, the minutes, the seconds. What should happen? It should log dot update health status as high priority alert, and then it should append it to the list, right? So make sure our indentation is good, then we can run it. So it says we are omitting hold on. Okay, are we good? Yeah, we are good. So to make sure we are really good, we have to rerun this. So I'll simply copy this. Copy what I have here. And we'll use it to test here, right? So just paste it here. It's okay. So the last thing is to actually call the function. Call this function and we'll see our output. So when we call this out, we have this. So let's see what we are having here. Is there any place where it tells us high priority alert? So this is unknown. This is critical. This is healthy. So I would also want to tweak this data just so that I would see if there is any of them that would be high priority alert. So I'll make this 3 a.m. I'll just make this 3. For it to work, remember it has to meet two conditions. It has to be critical and it has to be ingested between 12 midnight and 4 a.m. So let me check for the status that has critical is the second one, the transaction data load. So under the transaction data load, this is what we need to edit if we want to get the correct answer. So let's run this. So if we run this now, we still have unknown here. We still have critical here. We still have for the transaction data load, the health status is critical. And we have warning. We still do not have our output, meaning that something is wrong, right? Right? Yes. So this is transaction data load. The the changes we made that didn't reflect. We changed the time to 3 a.m. It's still appearing as 2. So the change didn't reflect. Where did I change this time? So I have transaction data load. Change this to 00. I'll run again. So I hope the name of this is okay. The name is still logs. The name of the list is logs. So it's supposed to reflect. Then I'll run this. So we still check transaction data load. The health status is high priority alert, right? So yeah, we got it. So this is how I walk through my project, right? It's mostly repetitive after you have figured out how to write your conditions. So for the single dictionary, there is no need for your for loop because you're not going into a lot of things. You're just interested in one dictionary. So your if else statements can always use for you. But when you have a list of dictionaries that you need to check for each of the dictionary inside the list, then you would need a for loop. This for loop would go for each dictionary to check the health status, update it, check the next dictionary, update it, check, you keep checking all the dictionaries you have inside your list. and after that it appends it into your empty list which you created before at the beginning of your project, and that will be the standing list that you work with. So I hope that everything we have here was clear and that if we're able to work with me through this project. So I would see you in the next one. Ciao.